Hi, this is Preetha and welcome to Dakshin Curry. I'm sure that after a long day at work, when you come home, you're really not in the mood to cook. But what to do? You have to enter the kitchen. Well, I'm going to sort out that problem for you. Today I'm going to show you a really easy to make upma, which is not going to take more than 5 minutes of your time. To know more, stay tuned. To know the ingredients to make this no frill upma, let's have a look. So the basic ingredient is raw rice. I'm using a small bowl of uncooked rice here. Along with that, the other ingredients are around a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, that's jeera. I'll be using a little bit of coconut, around 2 tablespoons of grated coconut, some dried red chillies, salt to taste, urad dal around a teaspoon of ginger and green chilies which are being chopped, a dash of hing, curry leaves, a little bit of mustard seeds around a teaspoon or so, and cooking oil around a tablespoon or so. So let's not waste time, let's get to the making of the recipe. So the first process is going to be making a powder. So I'm using 1 cup of raw rice. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to add this in a pan which I've already heated up, and I'll be dry roasting this. But we don't have to dry roast it to a large extent, just till you get a faint aroma. And once you start getting a faint aroma, I'll be adding a little bit of pepper and jeera. Now this is something that you can make and store in an airtight container. It keeps well for weeks. And when you have this ready, I mean, it hardly takes any time, to make the recipe. And you will also see that this is a very different way of in having intake of rice. So give this a quick stir, and at that point of time I'll be adding a little bit of pepper, say around half a teaspoon. You don't want a lot. Now this is completely optional. I like to add pepper and jeera while making the powder because I like that flavor when it's ground. What you can also do is, when making the upma, you can just crush the cumin seeds and the pepper, or you can add it whole also in the recipe. It's completely your choice. It's just that some people don't like the entire whole pepper coming in their mouth. So for people like them, grind it. As you can see, this is changing a little bit of color. And at this point of time, I will switch off the flame and I will allow it to cool. And once it's cooled down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind it into a powder. Now ensure that your powder is going to be a coarse powder and not a very fine powder. We still want a little bit of grain in that rice. The rice is cooled down and I have ground it into a coarse powder. And this is how the coarse powder is going to look. As you can see, there's a little bit of grain still left. It's not as fine. If it gets a little more finer, then it will become like suji rava, but that's not what we want. We still want a little bit of rice in this. Now this is ready. Now let's make the recipe. So I have a saucepan here. I'm going to add some oil. Now you can be a little liberal with oil for this recipe, it's fine. But if you want to avoid it, it's completely your choice. I'm going to add a teaspoon of mustard and I'm going to allow it to crackle. And once that crackles, I'll be adding what I call as the basic South Indian tadka ingredients. That's the urad dal and the green chilies, curry leaves. All that's going to follow. So now that our mustard seeds are crackling, I'm going to add our urad dal. Quickly add some green chilies and ginger. I'm going to add some red chillies, fried red chillies. It gives a very nice color and flavor also. Now if you're going to add only the red chillies, the green chillies are optional. It's just that there's going to be a lot of rice in this, so you want some flavor, of spice, which is why. Now we have already added the jeera in our powder, but I'm adding a little bit more, just that added flavor. Don't bother that you're adding it later. I mean, this much heat is enough for it to cook. At this point, I'll add the curry leaves. Dash of hing. And quickly I'm going to add water. Now if I'm going to be using around a cup of ground powder, I will be adding around 3 cups of water. So you want the rice to get cooked. Now it also depends on the quality of rice. There are some varieties of rice which might require lesser amount of water. So in those cases you can also have a 1:2. And also it depends on how coarse your powder is or how fine your powder is. The finer your powder, little lesser quantity of water is going to go in. Now we are going to allow this to come to a boil, and at that time I'm going to add salt. Now what you can also do is, you can add the salt to the powder. You might not be sure of as to how much salt is going to be required. So what you can do is, what I am doing right now, I'm adding the salt to the powder. And I'm going to give it a mix. It is something which is optional. You really don't need to mix it because it's going to get mixed. Now as you can see, the water is starting to simmer. Now there are some people who are really confident of adding the powder when the water is really boiling, and they can mix it and ensure there are no lumps. But what I would suggest is, allow the water to come to a boil. Once it's come to a boil, what you should do is again lower the flame, probably simmer it, add the powder, mix it well, and then complete your cooking. That way you can ensure that there are no lumps. Ensure that at this stage of the process both your hands are free, because from one hand you're going to add the powder and your other hand is going to be busy mixing. So now as you can see, the water is just starting to boil. At this stage what I'm going to do is just reduce the flame a little, and I'm going to start adding the powder little by little. Now you have to sprinkle this little by little and mix. Now this way no lumps will be formed. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to allow this to bubble, and you will see that after a few minutes all the water will be absorbed and it will get cooked. Now because this is a very fine powder, it will not take a lot of time to cook. As you can see, the water is absorbed by the rice. It's going to become like this lumpy mixture. At this point of time, I'll be firstly tasting the salt. Salt is perfect. So at this point of time, I'll be adding the coconut, around 2 tablespoons. And some freshly chopped coriander. This gives an added flavor, it's completely optional. But I like coriander. So I'm adding it in this recipe and we are done. We are ready to serve the recipe. So as you can see, our broken rice upma is ready to serve. You know, for an add-on flavor, more rich flavor, what you can do is try making this with ghee instead of oil. I'm sure you're going to love it. Please try this recipe. Do not forget to subscribe to India Food Network. And until next time, it's Preetha signing off. Bye.